Today we're going to be looking at the flute. The flute, much like the clarinet, is a very, very old instrument. There are many, many different types of flutes. Native American flutes are generally made of all wood. You can see my modern flute is metal. Flutes are used in all cultures. I think actually the flute is one of the oldest instruments ever found, dating from prehistoric times. So the flute comes in three parts: the head joint, the middle joint, and the foot joint. We're actually going to do this a little bit differently today. We're going to learn how to produce a tone on the head joint before even putting the flute together. Each instrument has its own unique difficulty. I often say the clarinet is incredibly hard to learn to play because the fingers need to be covered, or the holes need to be covered by the fingers all the way. The saxophone is incredibly easy to learn but difficult to master. The flute, once you produce a tone, is not technically too difficult, but the tone can be very, very difficult for some students. It was for me when I was learning. So take out your head joint and just practice making a sound on this before you even put the flute together. If you know how to blow across an open bottle to make a sound, you're going to be great at flute. That's an excellent way to practice. Just fill like a Coke bottle halfway full and blow across the top. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm sure your parents will. All right, so take your head joint. Notice that the head joint has a fatter part on one side. This fatter part is what your lip is going to rest on. So this fat part of the head joint, you're going to rest kind of right under your lip, right there. And we're going to blow across the top of the hole. We don't want to blow straight in, but out across. Sometimes I imagine, for visual sake, some of my air going across and getting caught in that hole and coming out the other end. I'm a very visual person, so that helps me to imagine that air going in that way. So what you want to do is blow out a candle and then kind of draw the corners of your mouth backwards, so that your air is no longer pointing out, but kind of angled downward. You can do this with your hand. Imagine all the air coming to a pinpoint right in the, try to make a small hole. Pinpoint out, and then shift your air, draw your corners of your mouth back and shift your air downward. So it goes from here to kind of down here. Practice doing that to be able to shift your air up and down. It'll help with the flute. So now take your head joint, place the fat part underneath your lip, blow out your candle, draw your corners of your mouth backwards, and then just take a deep breath and blow as hard as you can. If you don't produce a tone at first, don't be discouraged. Just keep practicing. It'll happen over time. I know I didn't play my first note for probably 2 weeks into practicing. Try to hold the tone as long as you possibly can. Time yourself. See if you can go for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Something else that helped me is placing my head joint and then covering the hole completely with my lips and then rolling out until only 1/4 of the hole is covered. Also practice rolling the flute in and out and see where you get your best tone. As you can see, there's a sweet spot where I can really produce a tone. If you get bored practicing with just the head joint, you can make fun sounds like this. Just something to keep practicing. All right, now we're ready to put the flute together. The head joint goes on the middle joint. Notice this kind of rim here. The head joint goes on like that. Again, you don't want to angle the flute when putting together. You want to make sure the flute is flat, and then just twist back and forth until the head joint is in. You actually don't want to push the head joint in as far as it goes, but leave a little bit of space. This is how we tune the instrument. So when you play with other people, you want to, when I play a B flat on my flute, I want to make sure the person next to me is also playing the same B flat. They don't sound different. So you can use this, pull it farther out, or push it farther in to make the flute sound different. Don't worry too much about that right now. Just leave a little bit of space between the head joint and the middle joint. The third piece of the flute is the foot joint. Same basic principle. Make sure the flute is going on straight, and then push together. This key, the first key on the flute, is the E flat key. It's going to be where you put your right hand pinky. Where the foot joint rests is really up to you and your hand position. It can be farther out like here, all the way down. Depends how big your hand is, so feel free to move that foot joint wherever it feels most comfortable to you. Holding the flute. There are going to be 3 access points to where the flute is being held. This part of your left hand, so right here, is going to rest kind of here. Your other thumb is going to kind of shift underneath. We want to make sure this thumb is not straight, but bent. We want to protect our joints in order not to get tendonitis. Mine likes to shift and go straight, but try to keep that curved. You're going to put your pinky on the E flat key, and eventually fingers 1, 2, 3, following backwards. The top part, the top hand, your left hand's a little harder. You hold the flute with the crook of your the crook of your pointer finger. Your thumb is going to rest on this back flat key right here. And then skip the top key, 1, skip a key, 2, 3. So that your pinky is left eventually going to play this key right here that kind of looks like a quarter note. So your pinky goes on the quarter note key. 3, 2, skip, 1, thumb on the back. Now, I'm going to rest my flute on my chin so that my chin, I'm not pushing my chin forward, but it's held on my chin here. I'm actively going to push my flute backwards with this hand, and the other way, this hand, so that it creates an equilibrium right here. By pressure pushing this way, pressure pushing this way. Now, put your thumb on the back. Put your pinky on the E flat key. Put your first finger down on the flute, and put your first finger down on the right hand. So again, pinky on the E flat key, first finger on your right hand, first finger on your left hand, thumb on the back. We're going to use this. This is a B flat. You're fingering a B flat on the flute, and we're going to produce a tone now on the entire flute, not just the head joint. So think about blowing out your candle, pulling your lips back, covering only 1/4 of the hole and blowing straight across the hole, not down into the hole. For this B flat, you want to kind of have soft, warm air. If your air is too fast or cold, you'll produce the higher B flat on the flute, which is fine. Just know that you're producing the higher one and try producing the lower one. If you've got the lower one, maybe try for the higher one.